perfectly natural to want to be liked. No one wakes up wanting to be shunned or disliked or hated. We need to be part of a community. It's part of our identity. It's part of our wired for love nature. This desire to be kind to others, to help others, to please other people. So that's normal, but it can become toxic. So people pleasing can shift from being something that's actually healthy into something that's toxic. And today's talk, I want to talk about what are the signs that we need to look out for to see how we having, if we potentially are shifting from healthy people pleasing into toxic people pleasing. And also maybe you people pleasing only certain types of people and in certain situations and not in others. Or maybe you have become a toxic people pleaser across the board in your life. Either way, let's talk about some signs to recognize it. And then let's talk about some strategies to manage if people pleasing has become toxic in your life and how you can rebalance that again. But let's just start by talking about the difference between a peacemaker and a people pleaser. Okay, so a peacemaker wants to restore the balance and reach a resolution amongst people. They try and see the issue from both sides and that in a rational and objective way, and that this person has a desire to help others. Now, people pleasing is also the desire to help others, but with a peacemaker, you're helping others, keeping a balanced perspective, an objective perspective, looking at it from two different perspectives, and also you're not scared to confront if something's not right or someone is saying something that's hurting someone else. So you're not going to just try and keep them happy. You're going to confront. Versus a toxic version of people pleasing is different. It's much more related to self-confidence, a lack of self-confidence, a lack of self-identity. It's more self-focused, and it's something where you're very afraid of criticism and afraid that if you don't just pander to that person or persons, that then you're not going to be accepted. So it's very generally a person who's shifting into toxic people pleasing is very hypersensitive to criticism and very wary and scared of being left out. And so it becomes the urge to please overrides what they believe, their values, their ethics, what they would normally say no to, boundary setting, all that kind of thing. So they kind of like when people pleasing has become toxic, it means that basically the person has sacrificed their own values and mental health just to try to be accepted. The problem is that it's not authentic. And people initially, when you first start people pleasing, and it's the first time maybe that you're meeting that person or something, they may not pick it up. But as time goes on, people will pick up when you are in a toxic people pleasing situation. And you know yourself, if you have a problem across the board or just with certain people, you know yourself, it doesn't feel good. This has happened to me where I've got into certain situations where I have become toxic in my people pleasing, and you just don't feel good. You just, you don't feel authentic. You can feel the compromise, and that compromise leads to a lot of resentment, frustration, and it also has it takes a tremendous toll on your psychoneurobiology. Because toxic people pleasing is a mind-driven decision. It's a choice that we make. It's driven by it's a mind decision. We're using our mind, and we're in a situation and we're with people, and we're either really afraid of being rejected, or we're afraid of being criticized, or we're desperate to be part of that group and accepted as part of that group. Or maybe it's someone that's a family member or a friend who's battling with mental health challenges or who's dealing with stuff, and you don't want to confront them, or because maybe they'll react badly. So you compromise and you just people please to try and keep the peace. All of those situations are toxic, especially they kind of tend to set up a negative feedback loop as well, because once you start doing that, then the feedback that you get is that there's a level of acceptance, and then there's a level of you kind of get stuck in this thing. Well, only way I'm going to be accepted is if I do this people pleasing. So it's not healthy. It creates a toxic feedback loop. A people pleaser seeks approval because of their low self-confidence, and then that further lowers the value that they place on themselves. And that's this toxic feedback loop. A low self-confidence, you people please, compromise your values, and then that feeds back in because you think, oh my gosh, I haven't been authentic. I have to compromise. I can't be me. So my identity and my self-confidence goes even lower, or even gets even worse, to try and please these people. And then you carry on and you please them some more until this negative toxic cycle gets set up. But as I said, it can also happen when you're dealing with someone who's difficult, and you compromise in terms of just to keep the peace. And that's another very strong reason why people will people please. And I've done that. And you do not feel good. Okay. Ultimately, people pleasing is like any behavior. In moderation, as I've said, it can actually be a good thing because it makes you kind and empathic, and it puts you out of yourself, and you'll be more of a peacemaker, and you'll think of others, and you'll serve others, and you'll love others, and that creates a positive feedback loop. It's just when it's being done for the wrong reasons, trying to keep the peace, or you've got low self-confidence, and you're just trying to be part of a group and accepted, and hypersensitive to criticism and those kinds of things. Those are not healthy. Those are core issues that are coming from somewhere, and you're then using that toxic version of people pleasing kind of as a coping mechanism, but it's a coping mechanism that's not sustainable because people, as I said, see through it, and you see through it, and it's not healthy. So let's see, what are some of the signals to see if that are associated with people pleasing that's become toxic? First of all, finding it hard to say no. Do you battle to say no? Are you able to say no? So if someone, maybe at home, maybe it's your parent and it's a child, and they ask you something and you know you should say no, but you don't say no. Or maybe it's a spouse, or maybe it's a friend or a group of friends, or at work. Are you finding, is it in any of those specific situations, or is it across the board? Is it with specific people, specific situations, or is it across the board? And then how often is it happening? Are you battling to say no like all the time? And then do you feel this frustration thinking, oh gosh, why did I say yes? I should have said no. And are you scared of that reaction that if you say no, then they're going to not like you or cut you out the group or think different, you may be hypersensitive to criticism. So you think, well, they're just not going to, you're not going to feel like you're part of them. They're going to think there's something wrong with you. And you have this whole scenario that you're creating in your mind. So if you are battling to say no, what are the reasons? So first of all, do you find it hard to say no? If you're saying yes and you find it hard to say no, how often? Is it happening daily, weekly, multiple times a day? In what situations and scenarios is it happening? Is it happening with specific types of people, specific groups of people? And if you can hone in on that, then you can start getting to the core of, well, why do I feel the need to people please with this particular family member? Or why do I feel the particular need to people please with this group of people? Why am I so desperate to be accepted by them? And then you focus in on, so you're starting to hone down into the, when and how it's happened. And then you can start answering those questions, which are, hard questions to answer. But I'm going to give you some more specific questions in a minute. So let's look at the next signal or key sign that's associated with people pleasing becoming toxic. So the first one is it's hard to say no. The second one is regularly taking on extra work even if you don't have the time. So you're in a work situation, or maybe it's even, you're a parent and you take on, you're part of your children's school group, or you in a friend group and you doing things together, and you're always the one making the arrangements, booking the things and booking the Airbnbs, or booking the different activities and making arrangements and phoning everyone. Are you always taking on those things? Or is it at work? Are you always the one in every meeting? Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll do that. Or are you able to actually, are you taking on too much? Are you feeling like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't have said yes to that. I don't have time for this. I need some help with that. And then that's something that I fell into that trap so often, that I would think, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And, that's in a people pleasing way. When I was young and first starting out with work, I did that so much, and I had to learn that that's not the best way to function. And even now, being 61, there are times that work I've had to learn to say, no, I can't do that now, and actually put up some sort of boundary, because I'm trying to please that person and say, yes, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do it by that time, when it's not realistic. So once again, if you regularly take on extra work, or even if you don't have the time, what does that regularly look like? Is it often? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it is it just once or twice a week? Is it affecting how you're functioning? Is it affecting, do you feel frustrated? Do you feel resentment? Okay. Then the third sign, are you overcommitting to plans, responsibilities, or projects? Okay. So the previous one is you taking on too much. Now here you're overcommitting. So you're saying, yes, you will do this by this time. and thinking that you can do it and you don't give yourself enough time. Or you commit to going on all these trips with your friends, or you commit to a whole bunch of work things and you'd actually overcommitted. You'd realize that you can't breathe because you've filled up every moment of the day and every day of the week, and you find that you're having to work 7 days a week. It could be so overcommitting to a plan with friends or at work, responsibilities or projects. Once again, how is it happening now and then? We all do it now and then, but is it a problem? Is it disrupting your life? That's what these signs, as I'm telling you these signs, we all do this to a certain extent, but is it disrupting your life? Is it making you feel frustrated and resented? Are you feeling burned out from this? Because this people pleasing in this way is going to make you feel burned out. It's so draining because it's not natural when you shift into toxic people pleasing. So we strain our psychoneurobiological network, and then that makes us really tired. Okay, next sign. Do you avoid disagreeing with people? Okay, this is a good one because like someone says something and you just know like this is not something you agree with, but to keep the peace because you know there's either going to be a tantrum or a criticism or a comeback or an aggressive response, you just can't handle it. You'd rather just keep the peace, and so you just agree, but inside you're boiling. Okay, if you do, who's it with? Where is it? How often? Daily, weekly? What does it make you feel like? Okay, next sign. Do you hold back your honest opinion? So if someone is doing something or they ask you something or you see something happening with your family, do you hold back on giving an honest opinion, telling that person, hey, listen, you could be kinder, or hey, listen, I don't think that's the wisest thing. This is why are you doing, what is your reason for doing that? Or I really can see that this is changing you. Do you hold back because you don't want to upset the status quo? You don't want to have them freak out and throw a tantrum. You don't want them to dislike you. So you compromise your value. You compromise your identity. That's what toxic people pleasing is going to do. But once again, now and then we do it. Maybe sometimes you do just need to keep the peace for a moment or so. But if this is a pattern, if you're doing this often, if it's making you feel like you're not happy, this drained of energy, then it's a problem. Next sign. Going along with things you're not happy about just to avoid upsetting someone. Okay? So this follows on from opinion, holding back your opinion, but actually doing something, going along with a plan that you just know is not a good plan, that you don't agree with. You can see it's going down the wrong road, yet to keep the peace or you're trying to hope for something better, you compromise and you're not happy about it and you feel that worry and anxiety, and that's another sign that it's going into toxic people pleasing. Then the next sign, feeling pressure to be friendly and nice. Okay, are you feeling pressure to be friendly all the time and nice all the time, where you just can't let your hair down, where you can't sometimes say, hey, listen, I'm having a bad day, I'm feeling sad. You always feel like you've always got to be smiling and together and have it together, and it's always, organized. And if you're not like that, you're letting them down, or they're going to not like you, or they're going to be upset with you. This can often happen with mothers. I'm a mother of 4, and I know that can happen a lot with me. And I know it happens at work with people. It happens where you just got to be friendly and nice all the time. And sometimes you're having a bad day. It doesn't mean you have to be grumpy and mean and horrible and unkind. But, you don't have to always be happy. You can just say, listen, I'm quiet today. It's not like a great day. Being honest. Once again, identity is going to be when you compromise your values, and, you don't want to you're not going to hang out all your dirty washing in front of everyone. But, you are entitled to say, I'm just not as perky today. I just need a little bit of space. I feel a little bit, quieter and, just not as perky. You don't have to always be smiling. And if you're feeling pressure to always be friendly and nice, always as an operative word, then you're slipping into toxic people pleasing. So we must be friendly and nice. But if you feel pressure to always be, there's the key. When, where, who, how does it make you feel, so on. Next sign. Feeling like your own wants and needs don't matter in comparison to others. So if you feel like this, now and then that's going to happen because you're dealing with something. But if it's a constant in life, once again, how often is it happening? Is it happening in specific situations with specific people? Is it happening across the board? If it's happening in specific situations with specific people all the time, that's a problem. Okay? So if you're never allowed to say how you feel, if you say how you feel and you get ghosted or gaslit, that's a problem. That's someone who's taking advantage of your desire to please them, and you shifting into that toxic people pleasing. And yes, there may be a few fireworks when you change that, because we're going to talk about the strategies in a moment. But if you're feeling that your needs are not mattering in that relationship or at work or whatever, that's a problem. When, where, how often, how does it make you feel? And then the last sign, feeling that other people take advantage of you. So do you feel like other people take advantage of you? Do you feel constantly, now and then it's going to happen, as I said, but if you feel that this is a constant, a pattern, and it's happened either across the board or in specific situations, work, family, certain friends, etc., do you feel like maybe you have a friend who's constantly, always like, you're always the one arranging things, you're always the one running after them, you're always the one paying for things or whatever, you've been taken advantage of. So if you feel that that's happening a lot in all or some situations, then, and it's making you feel that level of resentment, it's affecting your self-confidence, you feel like you're compromising your values, then it's shifting into a toxic people-pleasing situation. Okay, so quickly to run through the key signs associated with people-pleasing: finding it hard to say no, regularly taking on extra work even if you don't have the time, overcommitting to plans, responsibilities, or projects, saying you're fine when you aren't, avoiding disagreeing with people, holding back your honest opinion, going along with things you're not happy about just to avoid upsetting someone, feeling pressure to be friendly and nice, feeling like your own wants or needs don't matter in comparison to others, feeling that other people take advantage of you. Okay, so we don't want to sacrifice our self-identity. What we want to do is we don't want to get into that habit. That's the other thing. I talk about habits. If you do this for more than 63 days, you built it into your brain as a habit. So you're going to have to rewire. So you're going to have to do a full neurocycle to rewire. And so also when you people please, you're actually taking away the opportunity to define your own path. And that's really important. So let's dive into from those signs where the first strategy basically is to recognize those signs in the way that I've said and decide if it's a pattern and who it's happening with, and then how it's making you feel. Diving a little deeper with that into being more specific. You need to be honest with yourself. Okay? Being honest with yourself is very important. You need to stand back and observe those signs. Am I doing those? Is this a pattern? Has someone close to me noticed that I'm doing it? Like I had someone in my family say, hey, listen, you people pleasing that person. And I had to listen, be honest with myself, stand back and observe and see what it was doing to that relationship, because it wasn't helping that relationship, even though I was doing it in a way that I thought was helping the relationship. I knew deep down it wasn't. Okay, so be honest. I know it sounds obvious and almost cliche, but when you're stuck in a habit of people pleasing, it is really the first and most important step that you can do to break the cycle. So take those signs, be honest, stand back and observe yourself. You must first acknowledge that you need to change, okay? So you may say yes, yes, yes to all those signs, and yes, it happens with these people, and yes, yes, yes to all the things I've said so far, but now be honest. If you're observing this, you need to acknowledge you're doing this. You need to be honest with yourself saying, I need to change. I've got to stop this. And it's hard, especially in a situation where people are used to you doing that. It's been like a consistent thing, and you start changing that, people are going to react negatively, and that negative reaction is going to freak you out and throw you off, and self-criticism, and you're going to want to people please to get back in their good books. So there's going to be a rough patch, and being honest with yourself is expecting the rough patch and not allowing yourself to fall back into people pleasing when you have the rough patch. Okay. And then also admitting it's a problem and it's become a habit, and you need to start rewiring this. This is a pattern that you're going to have to change. So what you can do is you could make a little table, perhaps. You could maybe create a Google Doc or in your notes on your phone or something that's easy for you. And just have, on one column, you can put people-pleasing incident. And then in the other column, you can put the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, the how often. Okay. So let's say that now that you're honest, you agree that you've said yes to most of those signs, you know that you're doing it, you're being honest. Now you're going to observe yourself. So for a week, just have those two little columns or whatever on your notes on your phone or journal, however you want. And then just observe when you do a people-pleasing incident. So you're now aware. So you're standing back and observing yourself. So you've created this awareness. It's shifted you into this laser-like focus. So you're kind of watching yourself. You're not just going through the day. And you'll be in a conversation, and the alarm goes off or the signal goes off, and you realize, oops, here's a people-pleasing incident. And you may find yourself succumbing and kind of going with a normal flow. But, come away in this first week. Just, come away from that. Even if you do it, don't beat yourself up. Observe it. and go to your notes and just write down what the incident was. I didn't agree, and I had the sign of, let's say, I found it very hard to say no. So the incident was X person asked me to do this, and once again I said yes instead of no. And then in the column next to it, when did it happen? Where did it happen? Who did it happen with? And how often has this happened before? Think about it a bit. Actually, this has happened quite a lot. This has happened each time I'm with this person, especially in these kinds of situations and whatever. Okay. So observe yourself. Okay. Then analyze your behavior. So once you've got this little table set up, then you can analyze your behavior. And I'm going to give you some questions you can ask yourself that are more specific. And if you answer yes to a lot of these questions, then, these questions are going to help you start getting to the root of what the cause could be. So if you find that you battle with saying no and taking on too much, but you don't battle with the other signs, and it's with certain people in certain situations. So once you've created that, you recognize your pattern. In other words, what you're doing, what specific sign, maybe it's a combination of those signs, and then who it's with and how often, where, and so on. Then you can start analyzing. And here's some questions to help you do that. And you can apply these questions to whichever sign or signs you're working on, and you've written down the incident and so on. So here's the question. Are you doing anything possible to avoid conflict, even if it means turning into an entirely different person? So I've given you the signs. Now I'm taking you, and I've asked you to observe and make a note. Now I'm taking you a little deeper. And look at that incident and ask yourself, are you doing anything possible to avoid conflict, even if it means turning into an entirely different person? If yes, go into detail just to describe the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. So you've observed that you've described the people-pleasing incident in the previous little exercise. Now you're digging deeper with these questions. Not all of these questions will apply. You'll take the ones that will apply to you. And if it's yes, then go into detail to describe the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and the how. So you started doing that in the previous exercise. Now I want you to go deeper. And then I want you to tag onto this, what could you do instead next time? So if you've said yes instead of no, and it's this person and they always seem to do that, and it's happening often, and it's a regular thing, and it's this type of situation, or what can you do instead? So next time round, when they ask me, because I can predict now, you've worked it out, you know what the situation is, to a certain extent you can predict it. Create a statement. What can you create a mind shift? What statement? What can you think in your mind, and what can you say that will change it? So it may be something like, when they ask me that next time, I'm going to say to them, no, I can't actually do this because I've got so much other stuff to do. I'm so sorry. I can't help you this time. Write that down, in this little notes, these columns that you are creating, or somewhere in your notes, however you want to do it, and practice saying it. Don't just do it once. Practice saying it. And then when you go into that situation, before you go in, just go read through and say that statement over and over in your head. So you're preparing, you've got it ready. So when they ask you, it falls out. You don't have to think about it, because you're going to get put on the spot, and there's going to be all those emotions and so on that have been there that are going to come to the surface, and that are going to be activated by that person and the interaction and all the quantum energy and everything. So you want to have that pre-prepared statement that you draw on. The first time it's going to be hard. The second time it's going to be hard, but you'll eventually get better. They're going to throw you off with their reaction. You may cave and still do it. If that happens, don't beat yourself up. Come back. Go write that down